the SR-71, the TR-2. Johnson wanted new blood in the black area. And so I had the pleasure and honor of, they developed cracks up under the wings in some pretty critical areas. In each airplane, the cracks were indigenous. They weren't in the same places. So they designed a box that would go on the... Anytime you are gifted enough that you qualify, and I don't say that as a braggart.
From the Chief of Staff, U.S. Air Force. The name of this isolated spot in Nevada is Watertown, and its very isolation is of the greatest importance. The specialists that come off this transport are hand-picked. After each development flight, a careful accounting is made of fuel consumption. A special fuel dubbed lighter fluid was developed by Shell Oil Company specifically for the Angel, and the finished product was shipped to Nevada in tank cars labeled LF-1A. This blend will not boil at the low pressure. These pressurized tanks contain enough fuel to carry the Angel to cruising altitude, where they have no significant effect on speed or range. Even after the addition of an external drag chute, 3 times the normal oxygen supply, improved braking, and an autopilot, the final all-up weight was within 10 pounds of the original proposal. The Angel exceeded original performance limits in both ceiling and range. When the prototype Angel was flown across Death Valley to Watertown, Lockheed also found itself in the transportation business. Their own DC-3 made almost daily flights to Watertown with a hand-picked crew of flight line mechanics. The first unofficial name for Watertown was Paradise Ranch. This description was dreamed up. Many newcomers guessed that the project involved an atomic-powered aircraft, and were astonished to find that they were to work. As the operation at Watertown grew in scope, more transportation was required. A daily military air transport shuttle system was begun with C-54s from Burbank. In bad weather, not all the difficulties at Watertown have come from the Angel herself. Biting cold, an ever-present headache. But the Angel training of new pilots begins with the T-33 for familiarization flights. The pilot must be able to hold the T-bird. Pilot makes at least 3 landings with the pogos installed. She's a little easier to handle that way. The drivers taxi right up to the hangar doors. Not bad at all for an airplane that's supposed to be hard to handle on the ground.
The stunningly beautiful A-12 was finally rolled out for its initial tests in April 1962. It wasn't some fantastic, multi-staged aberration. It was an honest airplane, but nothing like it had ever been built before. Ironically codenamed Oxcart, and designed for sustained Mach 3.2 cruise at altitudes between 75 and 95,000 feet. All of this prodigious effort was about to come to fruition when on April 25, 1962, preparations for high-speed taxi and an initial brief liftoff were completed. But as Lou Schock sped down the runway, he encountered nose-wheel steering problems and had to kick in heavy right rudder. Then, as Johnson wrote in his log, the aircraft got off the ground, and there was an immediate change of rudder angle. This set up lateral oscillations which were horrible to see. Schock was lucky to get the airplane back on the ground. Feeling like he didn't have a care in the world, he offered a few last words of encouragement and advice before Schock taxied out. And from there, everything went flawlessly. "59 minutes later, Schock was back on the ground, welcomed by an elated Kelly Johnson and the small, awestruck assembly who just witnessed something very special. extremely complex inlet limited by exhaust ejector system, it operated as a normal afterburning turbojet up to speeds of about 1,600 miles per hour, and then shifted to bleed bypass cycle, with the inlet actually providing most of the thrust at Mach 3 cruise. Test program. A pair of airframes were modified for a highly unconventional mission. In 1964, the unusual pair taxied for the first time, and flight tests got underway. After takeoff,